Why did you first join the military?
Things were very difficult in those days. There was no work. My dad had very difficulty in finding work, and he would try traveling to try to get work, but which was unsuccessful. It left my mother and me alone a lot at home. Gradually, in 1937, he died early, and he died of TB. That left me alone with my mother. So we didn't have very much money, and we actually were on food stamps. So I asked my mother if I could join the Naval Reserve. She said yes, and I did that. And I was in that for about 6 or 7 months, and I decided I wanted to get into the regular Navy. So I could transfer into the regular Navy with her permission, which I did. I felt that would relieve her of trying to take care of me, make it easier for her so she could live with her sisters if necessary. And I'd join the Navy and get 3 squares a day and get to see the world, I thought, which I did.
At this time, the Nazis, led by Adolf Hitler, had taken control of Germany, and the Imperial Japanese had begun their war of conquest in Asia. How did you meet and eventually marry your wife?
Well, there was no money in those days, I said, and so we would go on sometimes we'd put a little band group together, a little combo, and go on the beach to play a little music and see if we could pick up a few bucks, which we did. And this one time I was playing at the Slab Hall in Costa Mesa Dance Hall, and while I was up there playing, I noticed a cute little girl dancing down there, a little brunette, and so I liked her, and during a break I went down and like all the sailors, I asked her if I could take her home. And she said, well, I'd have to ask her chaperone, which of course spoiled my evening, and I forgot about that. And ultimately went back to the ship. Came around the West Coast, and while I was on the ship there, another friend of mine said, hey Jack, he says, I got a date with my girl tonight. She's got a 6-year-old daughter, and I wonder if you'd like to come along. She's got a cute babysitter. So of course, like I said, sure. And so I went ashore with him, and who do you think the girl was? It was the girl from the dance the year before. So after a short whirlwind sort of romance, I married her. But she was only 16 and I was only 19. And I was, as I remember, I was making $36 a month, and her daddy owned this fishing boat, and she was Catholic and I was Protestant, and she was Portuguese and I was German. So everybody said, well, this marriage can't possibly last a year. Well, it did, lasted more than that.
Tensions running high in Europe, on September the 1st, 1939, Adolf Hitler invaded Poland and started World War II. The U.S. initially remained neutral in the conflict. Why did you want to become a corpsman?
While up there, I noticed that the Navy corpsmen, they were pharmacist mates in those days, had their own bunks. I wouldn't have to sleep in hammocks if I wanted to be a corpsman. And they also had their own galley, and they had refrigerators. I thought, boy, this is great. So I wanted to become a Navy corpsman. So they transferred me from the deck division to the hospital division. And I moved up and got to sleep in bunks, and then I started learning. I was taking courses in anatomy and physiology and stuff like that, assisting at sick call with the troops and on board the ship. And when we got to Pearl Harbor, I thought, well, they're going to send me to San Diego to the Navy Hospital Corps School. I thought that'll be a good chance for me to get back and see my young wife. But they didn't. They said, no, we're going to transfer you to the Navy Hospital. And I said, where's that? It's right across the channel. So I got a motor launch ride, and I went from the U.S. Medusa over to the Navy Hospital, Pearl Harbor. Now the Navy Hospital sits right on Hospital Point, or the entrance into Pearl Harbor. And it's just opposite, across the line, across the channel from Ford Island and where all the battleships are tied up. And so my life began out there, going through training as a hospital corpsman. We would work, I would work 3 months in medical ward, 3 months in surgical, 3 months in urology, 3 months in orthopedics. And then I would do laboratory x-ray type training and stuff like that.
Can you describe to us your memory of December 7th, 1941?
It happened to be in December the 6th. It was a Saturday night, and I was off duty. I was home, and we decided to go dancing down at Capilani Park in Waikiki Beach. And we did, and after the dancing, I walked home. We had about a half a mile to walk, and had to walk up a hill, dirt roads, up to the house where we were renting this room. And we went to bed. And then we started hearing a lot of explosions in the morning, and sort of woke us up. And didn't know what was going on. We thought, well, maybe it's the Army holding maneuvers again. They did that once in a while on Sundays. About that time, there was a knock on my door, and I got out, traveled out of this bed. And this was one bed, one room, you know, the bed and everything. And I went to opened up the door, and it was my Chinese landlord. He wanted to collect the rent, and so I talked to Mary Jo, my wife, and she gave me the $35, and I handed it to him. And in a normal tone of voice, he said, "The Japanese are bombing Pearl Harbor," and walked away. And I'm trying to compute. I looked past, and I could see the smoke and flames towards Pearl Harbor. Now we're about 9 miles away and up a sort of a hill, but there was no hotels there, so you could just see all this. So I'm sort of looking at that, and then hearing the explosion, I see the smoke and stuff, and I look out to sea, and I could see a couple of destroyers running up and down, and I could see some plumes of water going up alongside them, and apparently they looked like near misses or something. And I looked up above, and 3 Japanese planes were circling over my house, probably about 2,000 feet up, and I could see the red balls on their wingtips. And then they'd circle around and head towards Pearl Harbor, and I turned to my wife and says, "Turn on the radio." So she turned on the radio, and they were screaming on the radio, "All military personnel return to your base stations immediately. We're under attack by Japanese forces. They're bombing Pearl Harbor, Hickam Field, all around the island. All military," and they kept repeating it over and over, and screaming. They weren't just announcers. It was really exciting. About that time, a friend of mine came out of one of the other rooms, because there's another room that was being rented, and he said, "What's happening, Jack?" And he was stationed at the sub base down in Pearl Harbor. And I said, "Well, take a look. We're under attack." He said, "By who?" I said, "Japanese." He said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, we got to get back to our base." So we went back in our rooms and got our uniforms, white uniforms on. And both came out, kissed our wives goodbye, went down the stairs. A little Japanese guy's driving down the stairs in a pickup truck, so we commandeered him real quick and made him drive us down to the Army Navy YMCA downtown. And they dropped us off. Cabs couldn't go in, so they just dropped us off outside the main gate. And all hell's breaking loose, obviously, and people running all over. And so we went inside the gate, and they were all milling around. Must have been about 50 guys, determining where they were going to go, because Pearl Harbor's a big area. Hospital was off to my left about a third of a mile, and sub-base where Frenchie was going to the right. About that time, this Japanese guy comes down and starts strafing again. I don't remember hearing anything, but I remember seeing 4 dots on his wings, which was apparently machine guns. Machine right on down through all of us around there. Never hit one of us. I'll never know. So we broke up. About that time, a fellow Navy I worked with in a little pickup truck saw my Red Cross on my sleeve. He said, "Hey, Doc, come on, I'll take you to the hospital." So I said, "Okay." I said goodbye to Frenchie, and he went one way, and I jumped in the truck and headed for the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, I ran up the stairs, and all I could see was guys laid around. It smells terrible. They're crying, moaning, weeping, screaming. And, here I am. I'd had all this training, nothing like this, and behind locks. But fortunately, the training takes over. And I remember, first thing I did, I saw a guy laying there, and so he badly burned. I took his pulse, and I said, "How you feeling, Mac?" And I didn't get an answer. I said, "Hey, Mac, how you feeling?" Nothing. Finally, some guy said, "Hey, Hammett, he's dead. Get to work." I had one guy come walking in, just walking in like holding his hands like that, like can I make sick call type of thing. He's holding his intestines in his hands. So apparently shrapnel had opened him up, and I could walk, and the pain must have been intense. It was a shock. We laid him down, and I got a big battle dressing, and I remember laying it over there where we put normal saline water and stuff, keep it moist, and got him off the surgery thing. So we were getting a lot of sort of horrendous wounds at that time, a lot of burns. Now that went on for 72 hours. I didn't know whether my wife was alive or dead. So at any rate, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they gave us a break. And I walked down for my station, where it was right there at this hospital entrance. The entire place was on fire. The USS Oklahoma had rolled up upside down. She had 200 and some men trapped inside of her. And she was completely, looked like a beached whale type of thing. And so after that, I went back on up and started working again. After 72 hours, they decided to let married men go home. Well, there wasn't very many married men there. So naturally I got home, and it was 4 hours to be home. Mary Jo, and I was a mess, just a mess. Now in this room where we had this lobby, and they had 4 rooms off, which they were the sailors, and they had 1 bathroom, 1 little lousy shower, 1 commode, and a sink. So if we wanted to cook, which we weren't supposed to cook, we'd have hide the hot plate from the landlord and go wash the dishes in the sink. So it was very small and served all this. So I immediately hit the shower, hit the sack. I don't remember anything. And Mary Jo woke me up and says, "Time to go back. He's blowing the horn." So I put on another clean uniform and went back. I didn't see her again for 3 days. But I mean normal. We were under military rule, martial law. Martial law was declared immediately. Now, in those days, they used to have the red light district down in Hotel King Street, River Street, and stuff like that, where the prostitutes, ladies of the night, we call them. Right across from the house where we were living out there were 3 of those girls used to live there. By the way, 2 of them were working on their master's degrees in the States, but they were out there as teachers and went to work out there. That night, they also got a butcher knife. And those girls later on, many of the girls from those players came down to us until the Navy wives found out about it 2 weeks later. That was the end of that. They made them go away. But those are sort of some of the little things people don't know about. Pearl Harbor went on until April the 18th, 1942, which was only 4 months later when Jimmy Doolittle led the raid off the Hornet, the 16 B-26s, B-25s, to bomb Tokyo. And our morale came back on up. And then, of course, 6 months later, right, 6 months after Pearl Harbor, Japanese hit Midway, and then again we thought they were going to come through again. So I was able to get my wife Mary Jo evacuated back to the States, and she said back in August or something like that. And she went back to the States, went to work in a defense plant in San Pedro in the shipyards. Now that was my time of what I called Pearl Harbor plus 7 days and the residual. We lost 2,403 men were killed that day. 1,178 were wounded. 18 ships were sunk or damaged, including 8 battleships. 165 airplanes were destroyed, like that. Another 145 damaged. All in 1 hour and 50 minutes. That's about less time than you're going to be here today. The Battle of Pearl Harbor took over. That there are still 900 and some men still aboard the Arizona. There are 58 also aboard the USS Utah on the north side of the island. 1,177 of those men died like that on the Arizona on that first day. At the hospital, during a 2-hour period on the 7th, 2-hour period in the afternoon, we were admitting 1 patient every 2¼ minutes. That night, we had 960 men admitted to the Navy hospital there. That's my story of Pearl Harbor. Now after that, Mary Jo, after 1943, I was able to get back to the States, reunited with my wife, who was working in the shipyard. I was stationed at Navy Hospital, Oakland. I was then a first-class petty officer, and later I made chief petty officer up there, chief hospital corpsman. They sent me to Europe for the invasion of Europe, D-Day, and I went over there and set up a hospital where we received all the casualties from the 101st and 82nd Airborne Division. And after that, when they closed that hospital, they put me on a destroyer in the North Atlantic, hunter-killer groups looking for enemy submarines, then into North Africa, and then back on here. When the war was over, I thought life would be good, got together again. Suddenly, Korea comes up. Being a Navy corpsman, they sent me to the Marines, and that I went to Korea. I said, that's enough. At the end of Korea, I got out with 22 and a half years of service. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.